Robin, you're muted.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday morning business chat. Yay! We're here. And I love having all of you here. And on Thursday mornings, we do a short training and then we open up for Q&A about the training or anything business related. And excuse me. This morning, I periodically like to review this topic because we have new people regularly. And this is a topic that I think touches close to home for just about everybody. And I think many of you know about my background with Stephen Covey. Stephen used to say that teach what you want to learn. And many years ago, this was back in the 80s, I really wanted to learn about time management. And for those of you that are not familiar with this book, there is a section in here on time management, and then he made a whole book about it, um, and a whole program about it. But I started teaching it because I really needed to understand how to manage time. Now, time is an interesting concept. And what Stephen used to tell us is you can't manage it because we all have the same amount. It's not about managing our time, it's our relationship with time. So, today, what I want to do is share a little perspective on how time management, his quadrant two time management habit, relates to our profession and how we can be more effective. The secret to building, how can you build a network marketing business without burning out? And when you take a look at, we all have the same amount of time. How come some people get so much more done in the same amount of time and probably work less? How come some people have more money than others? And we all have access to the same tools. Well, it's all about leverage, and that's what quadrant two time management's about. So what I'm going to start out doing is giving an overview of the time management quadrant, and then I'm going to get into some specifics of how this relates in our business and what you do on a daily basis. So I'm going to share my screen and show you is it showing up, everybody? Okay, good. Thank you, Dr. Latrice. Can always count on you. I love it. So basically, I don't know about you guys, but I used to try the ABCs, one, two, threes, priorities on time management. Nothing really worked. When I got introduced to this structure, my whole world changed. And I want to share it with you because it's helped me understand, how to best leverage our time, which is our most precious resource. And Stephen makes it really simple by, kind of dividing it between what's important, not important, what's urgent and not urgent. So I'm going to give an overview of this, and then I'm going to get into specifics within each quadrant that relates to our profession. So the top quadrant, number one, is urgent and important. Those are things that you absolutely must attend to immediately when they happen. You get a flat tire, you got to handle it. Your child is sick. You got to go to school and pick them up. Whatever it is, it's you've got to take care of it immediately. Quadrant two is interesting. Uh-oh, did I stop the share or is it still there? My
So what we're
screen.
seeing is the Google, so we need to go back to that
Okay.
tab.
Okay, let me figure out what just happened. I pressed the wrong button. Oh dear. Okay. Now it disappeared. Okay, well, I'll talk about it while I find it. How's that? Um uh
Well, maybe I'll
Okay.
chime in while you're looking for it.
Okay.
Um, at one point in one of the high thresholds of my career, I was so busy I didn't have a life. And and on the third time somebody said, "You should read Seven Habits of Highly Effective People," I finally took the hint and I read it. And I read about this concept of putting first things first and some of the Covey principles. and got so excited about it that I went to a 3-day 7 Habits seminar, totally changed my life. Uh, it, my life probably would have been changed a lot more if Robin would have been the trainer, because I happened to go to Southern California where she lived, worked, and trained every weekend, but I got a different trainer than she, or the chemistry would have there would have been that igniting of our chemistry, 10 years sooner. But I just want to say that if you haven't read that book, this is right up there with the Bible and Think and Grow Rich. It's and in my trainings I used to say, what's everybody's favorite three books? Bible was always first. Think and Grow Rich was always second, and 7 Habits was many times third. So Robin's an expert. She worked directly with Stephen Covey. She embodies this and makes sure that I do my best to do the same.
Okay. Well,
All
Gregory,
right.
would you help me while I talk about it because it disappeared? Just
Okay.
just do a search for quadrant 2 time management and pull up an image, and I'll
Sure.
just talk about them because
Okay, good.
quadrant 2 is not urgent but important. Those are things that in our life we have to act on. They don't happen to us. And in our profession, and most people in life act on being reactive to what's happening out there. In order to be most effective, we want to put our time and our focus on the things that are going to have the greatest impact. And that's actually quadrant 2. And I'm going to get back to that. That's not urgent, but it's important. Those are things like in our business, those are things like relationship building, true recreation, taking care of our bodies, taking care of our possessions. Those are the things that will, taking the time to vision and plan. Those are the things that we have to act on. They don't happen to us like quadrant 1 that we have got to address right away. Quadrant 3 is urgent and not important. Those are things that are in our face. Someone knocks at your door. You've got mail. Remember those days? And we switch everything, and now it's all these pings that come in and all these distractions. They're not important, but they're in our face. And so it's really easy for many of us to be in that reactive mode. Oh, I've got some mail or a text just came in or something I need to address. And quadrant 4 is not urgent and not important. Those are thank you. That'll work great. Those are complete time wasters. And I was thinking about that as I was planning this call today. I'm going, okay, what are some of the things you do that are time wasters? And I was watching myself going through reels. Does that ever happen to anybody else? It's like, what's and sometimes you might sit down on the couch to watch a really wonderful program that's true recreation or education or inspiration, but the show's over, but there seems to be a magnet at your butt that keeps you sitting there and you keep watching over and over more and more stuff that becomes a time waster. And so these are the 4 quadrants. And I'm going to just do what I always like to do when I share this training is if we're looking at investing our time and getting the best return, if we invest $10 in quadrant 1, we're actually going to get 10 back. There's not any great return on that. We haven't wasted anything. Um, if you put $10 in quadrant 3, there's some waste there. You may get 5 back. So you're losing some money. $10 in quadrant 4 is a total waste. You know, people like sometimes we end up in conversations with people that are whining and complaining and being victims. Total waste of time. Not a good use of moving our business or our life forward or even our relationships forward. But quadrant 4, if you, I mean, quadrant 2, if you're going to invest $10 in quadrant 2, anyone have a guess? Put it in the chat what you're going to get back. if you invest $10 in quadrant two. This is the most leveraged of all quadrants. Put some numbers in the chat and let me know what you think you're going to get back when you invest $10 in quadrant two. I'm not seeing any numbers unless I'm missing something. Okay, 100, great. You can 10x it, great. 100, great. Guess what? It's 1,000. You get a huge return because this is where we get our leverage. This is where there's people that get more done in less time because they understand leverage. If you don't take the time to build relationships with people that are close to you, your family, your friends, your brand partners, your customers, and then something happens, it's going to come back to bite you. But if you did take the time over time to really connect with these people that are important to you in your personal and professional life, and something happens, it's it can get handled so much easier because the trust is there. So it is the huge piece that's most important. So now what I want to do is kind of look at the four different quadrants and our business and give some examples of each one of them. So I'm going to keep the chart up for a little bit while I look at these. But when we're talking about, excuse me, let me clear my throat for a second. Okay, I'm back. So things that are urgent and important in our business, things that just happen. Okay, one of them just happened this morning. Someone's account was shut down. Uh-oh, that's urgent. That's important. It has to be addressed immediately. What's going on? There's a problem with a customer. Okay, we've got to attend to that. Oh my gosh. All of a sudden you realize I've got to do a presentation and it's last minute. Okay, urgent and important. There's an emergency in the team. A lot of us, we take pride um, and care and taking care of our people. And if something isn't going right, we want to make sure we take care of that. Deadlines are also urgent and important. Oh my gosh, I got a plane to catch and I'm not packed, or whatever that may be. So these are activities that must be handled in the moment. Some examples of quadrant two. These are the important but not urgent. This is the place to be putting the majority of your time and attention to get the best results, to really develop a successful business. This is where successful network marketers live. And the things to include in quadrant two would be things like prospecting, personal development, taking the time to continue to grow yourself, taking the time to constantly add to your network, following up. The fortune and the friendship are in the follow up. Building relationships. I talked about that before. Staying in touch with your people, whether they're your prospects, your customers, or your brand partners, is being in touch, finding out what's important to them. Our job is to help people get more of what they want. We have to take the time to find out what is important to them. Um, Leadership development. We don't want to just grow, a business. We want to grow people. We want to grow our leadership skills. That's true for all of us to be successful in this business. We want to set goals. We want to say, where am I going? Where am I at? When I started early on in this business, Gregory said, okay, our job is to get them in, keep them in, and move them along. Well, we got to find out where they are and how to get them to that next step. So taking the time to do some goal setting and planning. And I have such vivid memories that I was most effective, I was most balanced when I was working with Covey, and every single week I planned based on his planning um, guidance of using roles and goals and planning on a weekly basis. If you're the kind of person that does to-do lists every day, that keeps you in quadrant one. When Stephen talks about planning, he talks about the most ideal way to plan, and this is not just for network marketing, this is for our lives, is to first identify the different roles you have in your life. We have a role as a brand partner. We have a family role. We have a community role. You may have a role in your church. You may have, a job. It could be many, many different roles. Usually, we each have around 5 roles. If you have too many, then it gets really challenging. But when you're planning your week, is to really take a look at what's important for each one of those roles. What big goal do you have for each one of those roles? And how can you move that forward each week and putting something in your calendar for that role? So I use this example because I remember it so vividly when I was going through this training back in the 80s that, you know, both my grandmothers were still alive at the time. And, you know, it was not urgent, but it was important. It was part of the relationship to make time to reach out to them every single week and just connect and taking the time to send birthday cards. And I don't know about you guys. I used to be one of the biggest card senders out there, and I still have a huge collection. I'm not so good as I used to be, but boy, it's one of those not urgent but important things to really remember people. So every single week, I put in my weekly planner the time to call both of my grandmothers. And I remember my father and his 2 brothers, every single day they called their mother. Every Friday when I was growing up is when it was family time. Every Sunday when I was growing up was our family thing. If you had left home, every Sunday you connected with the family. So consistency is what builds the relationships. And in our business, it's so important. So taking the time to have a goal within each one of those roles and put it in your weekly planner, whether it's digital, paper, however you choose to do it, just use one of them and be consistent. It's nice that my, you know, calendar on my phone syncs with my calendar on my iPad with calendar on my computer most of the time. Not always, sometimes, but that there's one system that you use. And Stephen used to talk about planning in pencil because things change. Things change. So when you're planning every week, you look at each one of those roles and you've identified bigger goals for each one of them. And then each week you look at what can I put in my calendar this week that's going to move me forward on the goal with whatever that is. Yay, Dr. Latrice, she's right there with me. I love it. So these are quadrant 2 activities for network marketers. Some network marketers are so busy, but they end up getting burnt out because they're not using leverage. They're reacting to what's happening out there, responding to every message, dramas, fires, getting up in the morning, opening up the phone, responding to things versus taking a deep breath and taking a look at what's my intention for the day, looking at your weekly plan. And this is always my reminder to do a better job on this. So that's quadrant 2 for network marketers. And I'm going to go into a little more detail in a bit. Quadrant 3, these are things that are urgent but not important. We all get these notifications that are at us all the time, and they could be such a distraction that they take us, that next shiny object that takes us off track from our quadrant 2 and our focus. Interruptions. If one of my coaches years ago talked about this concept called time blocking. And when you're time blocking, you say, I'm going to take 45 minutes or I'm going to take an hour and I'm only going to focus on XYZ and I'm not going to let anything get in the way. Well, how many of us really are good at that? It's so easy. We've got a puppy and interruptions happen all the time. There's unproductive meetings. How many of us know about that? It's like, oh my God, well, how'd I end up in this meeting? And sometimes those quadrant 3 activities are someone else's priorities, but they're not ours. So having that discernment and distinction about what's important for me. And then quadrant 4, these are the total waste of times scrolling, excessive, you know, playing around online, whatever it may be, time wasting activities. And I think we all know what they are. And so the invitation is to be aware. How are you spending your time? One of the exercises we had to do when we were going through this training is we had to, excuse me, um, document what we were doing every 15 minutes. And then we had to look at it and we had to identify what quadrant was that in. And so, if we're someone who just, wakes up, checks Facebook, responds to messages, watches team chats, handles random requests, and then several hours later, oh my gosh, we're exhausted and we got nothing done. And how often does that happen to many of us? Have you invited anyone? Have you followed up? Have you recruited? Have you developed? So, really, the activities that grow your business are rarely urgent. No one wakes up thinking, I better prospect today or I'll get a warning notice. It doesn't happen that way. We have to act on it. But if we do consistent prospecting, we're not going to end up in crisis because we're going to have our pipeline because we've always got stuff to work on. The more you work on quadrant two, the less emergencies you have in quadrant one. So let me give an example about that. If you've taken the time to build the relationships. And something happens, something blows up. And, something Gregory taught me years ago, there's always three sides to every story. And the larger the team, the more stories you hear. And so it's, if something happened, there was some blow up somewhere. And my job is to stay neutral. My job is to get information and realize that there's many different perspectives. So as a leader, it's not, sometimes people are very convincing about their side of the story, but there's always at least one or two other perspectives on that story. And so we want to make sure that if we've taken the time to develop those relationships, and building trust with those people, we can get together with whatever is going on and we can take it step by step, staying in that neutral place. Our power comes from our neutrality, not from our reaction. This is so important. It's so easy to get caught up in other people's stuff. But if we really do take the time to develop those relationships, when challenges show up, I had a few of them happen in my business this week. And I just went on a fact finding and had the relationships and we figured it out how to move forward in a way that works for everyone. When you've taken the time to do that with your people, life is so much easier and there's so much less drama from that one. Let's see. Let me look at the rest of my notes here. Um, so, so going back to quadrant two, because I really want this to be more about our business. What are the most important things that we can be spending our time on in quadrant two? So one would be daily prospecting, connecting with new people. This is the lifeblood of our business, is constantly inviting new connections, invitations, referrals, really asking yourself, how much time are you spending every day to meeting new people? Are you even doing that? Because success in our business is directly related to being consistent and developing our pipeline. One of my mentors in this business, her name was Jane Duber, she says, every single day you want to build your network because our network is our net worth. And then following up, we talk about the fortune and the friendship are in the follow up, and it is a relationship business. We want to take the time to be respectful. And as Gregory taught me years ago, never end one exposure without setting up the next, whether this is a prospect, a customer, or a brand partner. Before you end the conversation, you talk about what's next. So if you have a customer and you're letting them know about the specials going on, "Well, how often would you like me to be in touch with you? Once a week, once a month, once every 6 months. I want to stay connected. Are you the kind of person that likes, educational information? Is it okay if I send videos and things that are going on? And with your brand partners, we do grow sessions. Well, we set up a growth session, and then we set up, before that one's over, we set up the follow-up one. And so it's with customers, prospects, and your brand partners. You want to continually follow up with them. So follow-up calls, follow-up texts, checking in. Just do a check-in. We haven't talked in a while. Just want to check in. What's going on? You know, and so people have I've gotten so much feedback from people that they just so appreciated that I made that call. Are you making those calls to people to find out how are you doing with all this craziness that's going on, And I know you've got some challenges in your life, and I just want to check in and let you know I'm thinking about you. That means so much to people. So personal development would be another one of those key quadrant 2 activities. As we've heard many times, leaders are readers, and a lot of times many of us are listeners these days. I use Audible, and I have, Jim Rohn's anthology, and I have the anthologies of so many people that I really respect. And when I'm traveling, I put those on. I have Les Brown on there, of course, so just constantly learning and growing and working on yourself, working on your communication skills, working on your leadership skills, working on your sales skills, is working on your mindset. Because I think all of us know that this is the key to everything, it's between our ears. And how is our mindset? How is our focus? Um, Spending time every single day. And it could just mean 15 minutes. It could be reading something inspirational. It could be watching something that really helps you grow. Because you're busy, and you've heard me share this quote many times, work twice as hard on yourself as you do on your business, because you are your business. And so our business, the more we grow ourselves, the more our business will grow. You'll see it directly reflected. Relationship building, taking that time, every day to encourage your team members, celebrate the wins, send out voice messages, send out text messages, build genuine relationships with people and friendships. Because strong relationships create a strong organization, create
Please.
a strong business. And I'm a broken record on that one. I think lots of people have heard me talk about that one. And then again, leadership development. Our job isn't to build distributors, it's to build leaders. Gregory and I have a very large organization. There's no way we could manage, the hundreds of thousands of people we have. We have several very powerful leaders within our organization. Now, I can't say we get credit for growing them, because we get credit for some of them, but not all of them. But that's where, again, where you're going to get leverage is when you have your leaders, jumping off and managing their people. So, who can lead the next meeting? Who can mentor others? Who can duplicate the success? So future growth in your business is going to depend on growing leadership in depth. So those are a few activities that really can make a difference for us in our business to stay in quadrant 2. So my invitation to all of you is first to really be aware. Really watch yourself every single day. Watch yourself. How are you spending your time? Who are you spending your time with? I remember, Gregory doesn't do this so much anymore as he used to. Says, Robin, you're spending too much time with that person. And, your conversations need to be shorter. And, some of us really like getting into the relationship building. Sometimes I get into it too much. And so there's this, finding out, and when someone's a real talker in the beginning of the conversation, you can say, you know, I'm really interested in what's going on with you, and I've got 5 minutes, I got 10 minutes. So you set it up ahead of time, so then it's not awkward later. And so I just want to, so that's a little perspective of quadrant two time management. It's all about quadrant two. What is not urgent but important? And taking care of our bodies. If we don't take care of our bodies, what happens? Things break. We don't take care of our cars, things break. And we don't take care of our homes, then we deal with quadrant one. So the more time you spend in quadrant two, the less you have in quadrant one. And this is where our true leverage is. So, with all that in mind, oops, I don't know what I just did. Gregory, you want to stop the share? Did I just lose everybody?
No,
Okay.
we're still here. We still hear you.
Okay, good. All right. I've just not, something really weird happened. Okay, so with that in mind, I want to open things up for comments and questions from everyone. Did this make sense? Are you going to do it? What's an insight that you had from listening to this morning that's going to have you do something even different? Who wants to share?
Robin, I don't know if you can see hands, but we do have CJ that has
Oh,
her hand up.
oh,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks,
Well,
Robin. Carol Ferguson.
hi,
I just my
Carol.
Hi, darling. My grandson built that for me, so that's what he put in because that's what my email starts with. I love what you did just now because I think we all get caught up, like when you mentioned about making the list. I'm a list maker and I'm carrying things over, and I have a rule: I don't carry over more than 3 times. If it doesn't happen by the third time, it's not going to happen. So I felt very empowered by what you just said and how you really succinctly put it together so that we could grasp it and grab it and apply it to ourselves. And I just wanted to know, if is that chart available in some way that we could just have
Oh,
that little graphic, if it's in the
absolutely.
chat or somehow it's in the emails or
Yes.
something like that.
Um,
Thank
Carol,
you.
all you have to do is go on whichever your favorite browser is and put in quadrant two time
I
management,
wrote that down.
and
Okay,
then
great.
click on images, and you'll
Okay.
get lots of them. They're all over the place. And
All right.
you can go to
I
YouTube and listen to Stephen Covey train on this. I
I
mean,
love it. Thank you.
it changed my life. It
It's wonderful. And I love
absolutely.
the way you distilled it down. It's just perfect. So this was very timely for me. Thank you so
Oh,
much, Robin.
you're welcome, Carol. Okay, Lavelle and Miget.
Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. I want to kiss you, Robin. Um, we need to really be reminded of this because we all are. Like I always like to say, we either on track, off track, and this is something to help everyone get back on track if we're off track. But we need to hear this, but we need to share this. This is so important. And certain things that I did highlight is we need to build leaders, not distributors. Oh my goodness. And we need to hear that. Your conversations need to be shorter. These are things that we need to really take into account. And you said true leverage, not urgent, but important. Guys,
Yes.
this is powerful. Thank you so much, Robert and Greg. Be
Oh, you're
awesome.
welcome.
Amazing.
It's always good for me to review this because I've been watching myself and where I'm spending my time. And how can if we just live in the question, one of my absolute favorite personal development tools of all my many, many decades of doing personal development work is the power of questions. And it's the power of questions we live in for ourselves. When I was with Enlightened Leadership, we would stand in front of the room, and our job was not to give people information, but to know that everyone in the room has the answers to their own questions. So, living in questions of what can I be doing right now that's going to create more leverage in my life, that's going to accelerate, that's going to build the relationships in my business, that's going to build my, just living in the questions and knowing that when we live in those questions, we planted the seed in here and it will show up. and it'll show up in interesting ways, especially if we take the time to be quiet and listen, you know? And this is what David Schmidt does all the time. And he lives in the question, then he gets down on his knees and he asks a higher source, and then he listens and gets the download. How else could he have more than 250 patents, you know? It's amazing. Thank you, Lavelle. Dr. Latrice, you're next.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Miss Robin, for what an amazing reminder of so many things that were going through my head. I couldn't write things down fast enough. But you mentioned, in fact, right now, even when you were talking about the questions, the question, we're asking ourselves questions all the time. And when we do, we're sending those vibrations out into the universe and we're getting answers.
Okay.
So we do have to ask better questions. Like you said, we've got to think about the questions we're asking instead of doom and gloom. Why is this? Why is this wrong? Why is that not happening? Asking better questions. So I had to make that comment, but I raised my hand, I think, because I was thinking about even how my grandparents talked about with time that, work to touch it once. Work to touch it once. We have a tendency of taking papers from here and put them here and then put some over here and then put them right there, and then you open the mail but you don't handle what needs to be handled, or you open your email and you don't respond to that person, you're just scrolling through and looking. I love now how the emails will even say, we believe these are priorities for you. And so look at these emails first. I have a certain time of day that I will only look at emails. I really work to divide my day into time slots to do things. I was having a conversation. I see Miss Naomi has her hand up. We had a good chat yesterday, and I was saying to her, no, I haven't looked at my email yet. It's not that email time of day yet, because those things happen and they pull us away. So it is so important to stay connected to ourselves first. And maybe that's all I wanted to mention. Oh no, one more thing. You talked about how you tell somebody at the beginning of a call, I only have this amount of time. That's so important. It reminded me of even how we invite, that whole concept of being in a hurry. I can't be on this call for 5 minutes talking to you. I want to be on this call for 45 seconds to, maybe a minute and 15 seconds. I want to be able to show you some value and invite you to something. If I start off the conversation with that, and then I come back to, oh, now I'm answering your questions, I'm handling your objections, I must not have really been in a hurry. But when I tell you up front, I'm moving kind of fast right now, but I got something exciting I want to share with you. Move fast, share it, and move on. That's it. Thank you.
Beautiful. Great, great wisdom, darling. And you said something about another invitation for each of you. We all live in questions, but to pay attention, what are the questions you're living in? And what Dr. Latrice talked about is, why did this happen? Why, the question that starts with the why related to a person usually ends up in judgment. It's an interesting thing to pay attention to. Why does this, part not work? That's different. I'm trying to fix the lawnmower. I need a better part. But, why did this person do something is going to end up in judging. Why did I do this? So change the why to a what. What can I do differently? What can I do even better? Use those questions for a forward focus. And that's a whole nother training we'll do again sometime soon. The questions should move you where you want to go, not to your past. Why did this happen? What could I be doing differently next time so I get a better result? So pay attention. My invitation is to really watch what kind of questions are rolling on in your, and the most successful people in life have been living in great questions. It doesn't matter what their area of expertise is. They all live in forward focus, empowering questions. Okay, Renee, you're next, and then Naomi.
Good morning, Robin.
Good morning, Renee.
Thank you so much for this training. It's very, very important. And I think as business owners, we all need this because sometimes we lose sight of what is most the priority. And it reminds me of my calendar because as business owners, we don't have a boss, we don't have employees. We are our own boss and our own employees. And our calendar is our boss. And he just reminded me to like prioritize some of the people that I need to talk to and having a system. But I think when I think about that, it reminds me of my what is my why. So having a why will make us prioritize those things that are most important. And I like what you said about quadrant two, because we don't think about it all the time. We kind of react to emails, to texts, and taking care of everybody else without having a vision of what is our day going to look like. So I just want to say thank you. This is very, very, very important. And I'm going to share this with my team, and I know it will help them. So thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Renee. And this is like we used to do a week-long training on this one concept. So you can go to YouTube and learn more about this. To me, you know, when we're solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, we're not in business. We're in business for ourselves, but not by ourselves. We have a team sport here, but we don't have. We get like what was just said. We have to structure our own time. No one's doing it for us. We're not going to a job. We're not accountable to anyone outside of ourselves other than ourselves. So how are we structuring our time? And Dr. Latrice says this is the time I do my emails. This is the time I do my follow-ups. The most effective people do that. They stay focused on those quadrant two activities that are most important. Thank you so much, Renee.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I think Naomi, you're next, and Jen, then Ellie.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm so glad that you put this out here, Robin. I really, really, needed that training because this morning I was like, okay, what can I do differently? Dr. Latrice and I talk all the time, and she gives me good information and she makes me see things. And for you to say, living the questions was just wonderful. It's like, okay, I asked my first question this morning. Let's get there. Let's start making time for doing just what you need to do. I really, really needed to hear this. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. I think it's good for all of us, Naomi. I mean, every time I revisit it, it's that reminder for me of what I can do even better. And that's a great question to live in. What can I do even better to accomplish XYZ? Okay, Jen, hi, sweetheart.
Hello. Thank you so much. This is always a treasure. Um, and I'm going to be putting on my calendar contacting each of my adult children every week. And I thank you for that because establishing relationship with adult children that have left the home is important to me. And maybe if I do that, they will start calling me. But my question here is about prospecting and time and even money spent in prospecting. And I like to look at it as a seed and watering, and then perhaps seeing some increase, having a harvest. And how, in your experience, because I know I already have the answer within me, but in your experience, how long do you give to a specific area of prospecting, like a club or a gym or this and that and the other? How long do you seed somewhere, water somewhere, before you say, well, this isn't working. I really need to go and spend my time somewhere else. I'm not seeing any increase because the tendency is sometimes to say, well, oh, good grief, this is really not working, but maybe the seed is going down deep and it's a really big fish. And there's more time needed there. In your experience, how do you have any advice or wisdom that you can, did I ask that clearly?
No, no, that's a really good question. And I don't think there's a succinct answer, Jen, because like you said, if there's a big fish, we know people that have prospected big fish for like years because the timing wasn't right until the timing was right. And so, and it's not so much the location you're in, it could be what you're doing at the location. So when you're at the gym or you're at the coffee shop, there's this familiarity that builds when you see, if you're the kind of person that goes to the gym at the same time or the coffee shop at the same time, you're actually kind of building a relationship, even though you haven't built one, but you're seeing each other. So you're developing familiarity. And so then it might be the opportunity to say, we're in this place at the same time every week. I'm just curious, what do you do? And so it could not, it does, it's not necessarily about when is the time to move on, is maybe asking yourself the question, what can I do differently or even better to connect with people when I'm in this location? So I wouldn't say there's a time frame, but if you're not around the kind of people that are good prospects, that's a different story. Because, hanging out in the unemployment line is not where we're going to get our best prospects. So you want to make sure you're in the locations that are going to connect you with the kind of people that fit the qualities and characteristics of people you want on your team, people that are entrepreneurial, people that are learning and growing and making a difference, that want to share with people and want to change lives. So it's not so much the time as, are you in the right location for your prospects? And are you doing the things that develop the relationship? Because it's really the relationship that happens first. And then we get into what we're doing and asking about them, and then they're going to ask about us. So I don't know if that totally answers your question, but it's not so much about time as it is, are you around the kind of people that are your perfect prospects, and are you saying the things that are developing the relationship and connecting? Is that helpful, Jen? Okay, great. Okay, Ellie.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. I always love the reminders that come from Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I have dear friends that are they're a family of 10, and they have been super successful. And he has started and operates multiple businesses. And I have I have a good friendship with his wife, and we go to lunch or go for a walk or go for a run, or we do something probably at least once a month. And they really inspire me. And so I did ask many years ago, I'm like, what is it that you and Corey do day in and day out that has helped you to create so many successful businesses?
Okay, let me interrupt for a second. I hope
Yeah.
everyone heard what Ellie asked. That was a brilliant question. Is to ask the people that you admire and respect, what are they doing? Continue on. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that was
Okay,
so
good, because I
good.
thought I
That
was
was
about to get in trouble for
no, that was so good. I wanted to make sure everyone heard it. Yes.
And so she said, we live the seven habits of highly successful people.
Mhm.
And I can see it. And they even built here in Mapleton a Bridal Up Hope. And Bridal Up Hope, for those of you who haven't explored it that are females, it is a leadership program based on the seven habits of highly effective people that the Coveys founded on behalf of their daughter Rachel, who took her life, and was a very she loved horses, and so they partner a habit each week with a horseback riding lesson. And you can really see where you're messing up when you're working with those horses. It is amazing feedback because the horses won't follow somebody that's not a leader. So those are programs that are global, that I found personally to be really beneficial. And so for me, one of the things, like, it's how you start your day sets your day. And so not getting distracted with picking up my phone and looking at text, like, okay, what's important? I need to feed myself. I need to get exercise. I need to study my scriptures. I love to get at least a page or two in of personal development, because sometimes I've got an hour-long call like this that's going to fill that other part of my personal development time, but at least something that keeps me moving forward in that book before I even pick up my phone. And then when I do pick up my phone, like last night, we have a single adult conference happening here, and I got, just through casual conversation, for people that it came up that they were interested in learning more. And so when I, pulled in the iPhone, we can do unread text. And I just went to the ones that were most important for me to follow up with today, because I want to make sure that they get doc talk and so forth reminders before I respond to the other ones that I know are more of just a casual friend, personal conversation. Those I put down on the corner right hand lower corner of my schedule sheet. Like these are people I follow up with on my personal time that I don't feel like it's going to make an impact on my business, because it can become so easy to justify, oh, this could be like a building a relationship call. Well, you've got to use the gift of discernment to know where what fits in, and taking time to pause hourly for me has led to a lot more success, because we can tend to get really wrapped up in what we're doing. It's kind of like if you give a mouse a cookie, then the mouse wants milk. And then when you give them milk, they want blah, blah. And if we don't pause and recenter and say, okay, what am I doing now and where is it leading me? Then we can end up with our ladder against the wrong wall. So thank you for
Beautiful.
redirecting us every week.
I love it. And you asked a question, who are the most valuable people for me to follow up with now?
Mhm.
You know, and really taking a look at, not everyone is a great prospect, you know, and identifying who are the most valuable ones to follow up with. So thank you so much, Ellie. That was great. Lavelle, Mijet.
So my wife and I, we're going to be at boot camp um, here in Anaheim this weekend. We're very excited, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to have one of our leaders share this on our Saturday training. This is so good. This is so good. But I was thinking, Robin and Gregory, this may be a category that
What was
should
that?
be taught. This should be a category that's taught at boot camp. I think a little bit more. I really think this should be something that should be incorporated into boot camp, because we all need this, and we need it to be reminded. We got to be, we need to be reminded of this. So I
Yeah,
just want
well,
to put that out there.
make a suggestion to them. That would be a really good piece to add. And how many guests you have on Friday night?
Oh, now you got me.
That's one of the most leveraged things you can do. Today's Thursday. You've got time to get people there tomorrow night. That's one of your most powerful leverages right now. Okay?
Absolutely. Thank you
And I
so
Okay.
much.
believe, Robin, guests on Friday night might potentially be invited to spend the whole day on Saturday at no charge.
If they join, that
If
is
they
true.
join that, okay, good.
Yeah,
That is
if they
Awesome.
true. If they
join, and
join.
then also
Yep.
they are giving away a Celogize to everyone who attends this weekend.
Sweet.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, Dr. Latrice.
Yes, I don't mean to come back in, but I did forget earlier to mention that Dr. Velvet and I both posted the four quadrants in an image of it in the chat. So if
Great.
the
Great.
if CJ wants to go back and grab mine or Dr. Velvet's, we posted one right after the other. So they those are
Great
my
minds.
sister right
Great
there. So,
minds.
we do things alike. We do things alike. And when you were talking about questions, I did want to mention too that I end my day every day asking myself two questions. One question is, what did I do today that brought me closer to each goal that I have on my sheet? What did I do today that took me further away? And my concept behind that is I want to do more of the things that brought me closer to and less of the things that took me further away. And that really
Beautiful.
helps me with going through my next day. So,
Ah, you are a
and that's
constant,
why I'm here.
you are such a great student, Dr. Latrice, and that shows up in life. If you continue to work on yourself and live in these great questions, your life will just get better and better and better. Your business will be more and more successful by taking just moments to do those reviews of what's working, what's moving me closer to my goal, what do I need to do even better to get closer. Okay, thank you, thank you. Janice.
Richardson party? I don't know who the Richardson party is, but their table's ready. Um, hey, I just wanted to tell you thank you for today's call. It was very good. And the other thing that you said was super helpful for me when you talked about having been somewhere a lot and seeing people like at the gym, for an example, because I do go on certain days and there are typically the same people there, and I have not talked to them, and I always want to talk to them, but I'm like, how am I going to make that approach and have that conversation? But what you said was so simple and so easy to do, so I'm going to try that. And
Oh,
then last
goody.
night, I went to a networking meeting, which I typically don't like networking meetings. And this is some friends who had one before that I was with. And I was anxious about going, of course. And I hate to get up and share because I never know if I'm going to get tongue-tied or what. But I did. And then once I did, of course, I felt fine after what I said. And then someone came up to me and was actually interested in wanting to know some more. I know, right? And so you just need to feel the fear and do it anyway sometimes. But I'm going to make myself do that at the gym too, because that's always, I'm anxious about that and how they'll receive it and stuff. And so thank you. It was what I needed today. And all the other people's comments were just fantastic. And Dr. Latrice, the questions that you ask at night, yes, I've asked, what did I do to, get me closer to my goal? But the trick question was there that I don't do, and I'm going to incorporate is what did I do that took me further away from it? That's very important to remember to say. So thank you for that too. So great call today.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Janice. Great to have you here. Jen,
I'm back.
I love that you're back.
And I'm gonna ask the people who I admire and respect what you're doing. So I'm gonna ask all the leaders in this community when you have two time conflictions and they're both of equal importance. I like to listen to my gut, but what do the other leaders on this call do if you have two things and I can't be in two places at one time, and they're both equally important? How do you evaluate that?
I'll say follow your heart, not your head. Tune into your heart. Take a deep breath and just listen, which feels like it's more important at a heart level because we intellectualize things on a head level, but our heart, which is connected to our gut, follow your gut, follow your heart.
Yeah, beautiful. And,
Very good.
ask yourself the question. I have two what looks like equal. Which one would be best for me? And listen to what guidance you get, because we all get that. And I want to address Ellie said something that, Stephen Covey got all of this from the Book of Mormon. Actually, there was a lot of controversy from the Mormon community that, oh, Stephen Covey took the Mormon teachings. No, what's in this book are principles. The principles have been around forever. The principles are things that no matter where you are, that's always true north. They're true in every culture, everywhere around the world. They're principles. They don't belong in any one location. They're for everyone from everywhere. And I just wanted to clarify that because this is inclusive for everyone. This is not from just one place of teachings. And if you've never read that, there you go. I don't even have the book that Stephen signed for me, but this book is one he signed for my parents. That
But you
really,
do have an unpublished manuscript, I believe.
I do. That's signed by Stephen. I do have his galley proof of the Seven Habits, but this one will get you deeper into the first things first, the quadrant two. This entire book is about quadrant two. If you're wanting to be a student, it's a journey. And just be gentle with yourself on the journey, but very powerful teachings. And oh, he did sign this one. Well, this one is signed to you, honey.
How about that?
To Gregory Muscari, keep making a difference. Stephen R. Covey. That was in 95. That was long before Gregory and I met.
Mhm.
How do you like that one? This one was signed to my parents, you know. To Yale and Joan, how we love and appreciate Robin, your beautiful daughter. Every good wish to you and yours, Stephen. How sweet is that?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, Dennis, you want to finish it up for us?
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, as we've been listening here,
Yes.
I was inspired to ask AI regarding recruiting. And it's amazing when you articulate carefully your inquiry. What I got a magnificent response. Here's my inquiry. Dear AI, and I happen to be using Copilot by Microsoft, if anybody's curious. For my LifeWave X39 patches business, the patch that, among other things, affects accelerated stem cell activity throughout the body. Regarding recruiting people into my business without having to actually join any one or several group networking for business events here in Las Vegas, what are the names and contact info for networking opportunities, especially in West Las Vegas, where I live, that I could take advantage of? At one time, I gave public speaking guest expert speeches at Toastmasters breakfasts with great success in the audio video industry, giving educational info to the listeners, and then they would approach me at the end of my lecture. I have studied, witnessed, and experienced light and frequency healing technology since 2005, and that is what attracted me to LifeWave for the X39 patch and X20 water processing unit that actually infuses drinking water with light of very specific frequencies. Well, I found this very attractive with my scope of knowledge. So when a guest speaker for healing light with light and frequencies event does not want you pitching your actual current company of affiliation during your educational speech, but can broadly explain multiple light and frequency healing technologies, including LifeWave, then the people will approach you at the end. This I know. So anyway, I won't go on any further, but it came up with like 10 really, really great recommendations. Top networking and guest speaker opportunities in West Las Vegas. Here's your list. These are the highest value, lowest barrier places where your healing with light and frequencies talk will attract the right kind of people, wellness curious, biohacking friendly, and open to alternative modalities. And it gave me a whole freaking list with maps showing the locations, their phone numbers, their
I love it. I love it.
everything. Yeah.
That was brilliant, Dennis. And what Dennis did is, and this is what the power of AI is really reflected in the quality of what's called the prompts. Those are the questions you ask it. And the same is true for the questions we ask ourselves. Okay, Gregor, you want to finish it up?
I do, and I'm rearranging my day after this call, and my planner, and I'm taking. I'm gonna live in quadrant two to the best of my ability, but I did want to address the subject matter on yesterday's directors' calls. Those of you who were on the call know that we gave the directors a sneak peek to the new InTouch app, and we have set a launch date. Okay. We've had, over 60, 70 people on the beta test. And I'm sorry if you weren't one of them. We had beta test group. It was going to be a group of around 20. But once the people got it, they said, oh my gosh, can I have so and so and so and so test it? So it grew a little bit, but I got to tell you, the results people are having were beyond Janet Kiefer and my fondest dreams and expectations. Janet's really the project manager that's really wrestling this to completion. Our launch date is Tuesday, July 7th. So between now and then, we'll be dripping out more and more information. So I just want to let you know, mark your calendar for Tuesday night. The Power of Patch call is going to be the Power of the App call on Tuesday night. And then it's going to be a 4-week training of the app thereafter. So this is not an app training call, but I just wanted to let you know because the news is leaking out and it's no longer a secret because we're close enough to completion that we've committed to a date. So and that's all I wanted to say. And we'll
So,
probably
honey,
publish that.
let's just clarify. How many Tuesdays are we going to shift from Power of the Patch to the app?
We're going to run it for 4 consecutive Tuesdays the whole month of July.
Okay.
And at
So,
that point, we'll decide if we're going to go back to the power of, and the power of the patch call last week shifted to the power of light because we're no longer just a patch company. We're a patch and water company. We're two different distinct technologies, and Celergize pulls them together. Okay. So we're evolving that presentation, but I want to let people know that you'll hear more and more, and you'll be able to enroll after the launch call on Tuesday. So you'll learn more soon.
Well, this is exciting. We get a great app. It's even better than what we had before. And we're
Yes.
very, very, very excited. And thank you to the team behind the scenes, especially Gregory and Janet. Janet has been working for months and months and months on this. And God bless her for being the project manager and bringing forth something that's going to make a huge contribution to all of us. So thank you everyone for being with us today. Remember my invitation, watch yourself, just without judgment, just notice, just be aware of how you're spending your time. And then if you say, and ask yourself, which quadrant is this? Is this important? Is this urgent? Is this a time waster? And then choose again to be in a more leveraged situation if it wasn't. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Love you. Bye.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank
And
you.
Jim's flyer
Thank
is posted
you.
in the chat too for his
Oh, yes.
call. I
Tonight,
posted it.
the
I
power
posted it
of
and then he posted it.
X2O.
Yes,
Thank you, Julie, for doing
X2O
that.
tonight.
Yes.
Thank you,
X2O
Robin.
education.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
It was really
Thank you,
fun.
Robin.
Okay.
Thank
Bye, everybody.
you.
Thank you guys.
Thank
Yeah.
you.